We are into the second week of New York Jets training camp, and there are certainly a lot of key takeaways to get into between standouts, disappointments, and roster battles. We have a ton to discuss right here on an action-packed Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, and who better to do that with than SNY Jets reporter Connor Hughes. That and much more all coming up here on another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, baby. Let's go!
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, New York Jet fans? Hello, everyone, and welcome back here right into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Appreciate you all joining us right here on this beautiful Wednesday evening, July 30th, 2025. Make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe on your way into the building. It's completely free and helps us grow significantly right here on the channel. Throw all your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. We will get to those. Appreciate all of your support, as always, right here on the show. But joining me right now, the man, the myth, the legend. He does show reviews. He's a TikTok streamer now. But most importantly, he's a Jets beat reporter for SNY. It's the great Connor Hughes gracing us with his presence right here on the program. Connor, man, last we spoke was following the Week 5 loss. I had to go back into the archives.
It's been a minute.
To the Minnesota Vikings. And little did we know that was the beginning of the end for the New York Jets, Connor.
Yeah, a big surprise. You've been liking that TikTok stuff? I feel like I might be dating. That's what I'm saying. That's your age. Like that's like I feel like I'm at that weird cusp. Like I'm 33, so I'm right at the age where I have been perusing TikTok forever because like I'll get lost in it. Like it's almost sick how much time I'll spend. But I've never posted on it before. So this is the first summer where I was like, you know what? Let's see what kind of viewership is out there and see if I can't captivate them. So I've been throwing some highlight like the Giants. Are much more open to like what you can shoot. Like the Giants let you shoot like team drills and individual, like let you shoot everything. The Jets are a little bit more tight with that. So I've been able to post more stuff with them. But it seems like there's a legit like viewership and people that absorb their news from there. So I've been enjoying like kind of dabbling in that market.
Absolutely. And you've obviously done so much work with the Jets on Twitter and now streaming on TikTok. Now you've been at a ton of these training camp practices. I want to start on a positive note for these Jet fans because, obviously it's been a lot of doom and gloom over the past decade plus. Yeah. Now you got Aaron Glenn in the building. There's clearly a new change in tone and the environment overall in the practice. Something that I've noticed is the practices got moved up way earlier in the morning compared to Robert Saleh, who had, later morning sessions. Under Aaron Glenn, under this new regime, who are some players who have overall caught your eye over these first few practices who you were surprised with and you think have made an impact throughout training camp?
Yeah, big guys that have stood out so far. Garrett will I'll give you the ones that like everybody is going to be like, well, duh, but it's still like they've looked that good. Like Garrett Wilson is the Jets' #1 receiver. Garrett Wilson is one of the better players in the entire NFL, so like he should be looking very good in training camp. But he's looking even better than I expected. Like this is the best I've ever seen Garrett Wilson look in terms of his route running, in terms of his aggressiveness, his hands, his explosiveness, his speed, the way in which the Jets are using him as well. It's very. For the first time in his career, it feels like they are legitimately designing game plans around him instead of fitting Garrett Wilson into game plans that they create. So he's somebody that stood out a lot to me. I think Sauce Gardner's had a really good summer as well. I saw some bogus tweet that came out from one of the aggregator accounts that was like, Josh Reynolds has been owning Sauce Gardner in camp. Like I've been at the Giants the last couple of days, but I talked to everybody over at the Jets still. I have not gotten that sense in any way, shape, or form. Like just ridiculous. So I don't get that sense like at all with them. I think Sauce Gardner has performed very, very well. And then the other guy that has really, really stood out to me is Braylon Allen. I think that Braylon Allen has really stood out to me in terms of a guy that just looks more comfortable within this offense. A guy that has established himself to a point of comfortability And you're starting to see his speed and athleticism shine, as well as his just big bodied frame. And I know a lot of people talk about Breece Hall, but the sense that I get and the vibe that I get, man, is that this is going to be very much a running back by committee, very reminiscent of what the Detroit Lions have created.
Yes.
And I think that he's going to have a major role on the offense this year.
What I love about Braylon Allen, Connor, especially when you pair him
Yeah.
with Justin Fields as the new quarterback of this team, is he offers something different than Breece Hall and Isaiah Davis. Obviously, with this 235-pound frame, he has the north-south ability with his power, and I think that's a really scary sight for opposing defenses, especially when you put him in the same backfield as Justin Fields, who's such a mobile quarterback, who's such a threat for you on read options. I think Braylon's power, his ability to just hit the hole with so much authority is certainly a key factor and something that has caught my eye throughout the training camp practices that I attended. You mentioned Garrett Wilson, you mentioned Josh Reynolds, that wide receiver room overall as a whole. There's a lot of limbo going on there just because there's no concrete answer truly behind Garrett Wilson. You have Josh Reynolds, who's been in this league for a long time, but what is he truly? That answer still remains up in the air. I don't think he's a high-end wide receiver too in this league. So there's certainly a lot of competition in that room. Someone who caught my eye significantly throughout my time when I was there in Florham Park was UDFA Jamal Pritchett. This is someone who I have spoken about for some time now since he signed with the team as an undrafted free agent. What do you think the chances are looking like right now for Pritchett to find his way potentially onto this team's 53-man roster?
He's got to make plays on special teams. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing with any of these guys that are undrafted free agents and it's one of the criticisms where I've spoken a lot about Alan Lazard and whether
Corley
or not,
as well.
Yeah, Corley, at least I think that there's some hope that he might be able to have a role as a kick returner, punt returner, although he was very apprehensive to do that last year. He just wanted to be a receiver, which was kind of another whole crap storm that was brewing last year with him, and one of the reasons why he fell out of favor with that coaching staff and really hasn't endeared himself much to this staff either. But I think with Alan Lazard, like you talk about him, you're like, oh, he's only making $1 million, whatever his salary is. It's something real low ever since he restructured. Yeah, it's real slow ever since he restructured. And you look at him and you're like, well, for that, why don't you just keep him on the roster? Well, Alan Lazard is very limited in what he can do for a team. So he is your big-bodied, physical red zone presence is essentially what he does. He brings no value as a kick returner, no value as a punt returner, no value as a gunner, really doesn't play special teams or have any need to play special teams. In fact, last year, I'll never forget it. It was one of the most like, what are we doing here, man, moments where Robert Saleh tried to do everything that he could to like throw Alan Lazard a bone. And he goes like, he's been really putting forth an effort on special teams, fighting to get back out there. And we talked to Alan Lazard that day and we're like, hey, Robert says you really put an effort to play special teams. And he goes, yeah, because I'm on the depth chart and that's my job and I don't want to get fined. So I have to go out there for special teams. It's like, man, the coach was trying to do you a favor, dude.
Exactly. Like just take it and leave it. Just say, I'm willing to do anything. Pull a Braylon Allen like he told you guys the other day. Like, why do you have to say that, Alan Lazard?
Exactly. So like, for like Lazard, he's one of those things where you look at him, he's okay. He's not wide. Your three wide receivers right now are looking like it's going to be Garrett Wilson, some variation. Garrett Wilson, Johnson, Reynolds. Those are kind of like your 1, 2, 3. Xavier Gibson, I feel like is a roster lock. Arian Smith is a roster lock. So I named 5 wide receivers there. Am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 wide receivers. I don't think the Jets are going to keep 7. They're going to keep 6. So that 6th wide receiver, you say, okay, it's going to be Alan Lazard. Well, the 6th wide receiver is, in all likelihood, probably not going to be active on game days. If he is active on game days, he's probably going to play 5 to 10 snaps on offense, maybe, and the rest of the plays on offense are going to be special teams. So you want to have a guy there that's going to contribute elsewhere. That's not going to be Alan Lazard. So that's kind of why I have him on the outside looking in. So when you have some of these other guys who might go up and steal that spot, just show value elsewhere. Like that's what you have to do. That's what Brownlee did when he made the roster as an undrafted free agent a couple years ago. That's what Gibbs, like Brownlee was a special teams guy as well in terms of a gunner contributing on a kickoff and stuff like that. With Gibson, he was the punt returner, showing value there. So you can't expect those guys to unseat some of these other dudes to play 30 snaps on offense. So they have to earn their stripes elsewhere. That's what he's got to do to make it. And I think there is an opportunity there. He's just, like I said, fighting with some other guys.
Yeah, and I think that's where Jamal Pritchett, offers some value. He's someone who we've seen nice route running ability from him throughout training camp. He's had strong hands, and I view him as a Xavier Gibson replacement. They're similar builds. I mean,
It's fair.
Jamal Pritchett is not a big guy. He's 5'8", 5'9". I think he could be a more efficient punt returner than also offer more offensive upside. We've seen nothing from Xavier Gibson on offense, and obviously, ever since the glory moment on 9/11 against the
Yeah.
Bills in 2023, he's been very inefficient as a punt returner as well. So Gibson's certainly an interesting one to watch as training camp progresses. We'll see him in the preseason, obviously, along with a bunch of these returners. A receiver who you didn't mention, who offered a lot of special teams value when he was on the field last year, was Irv Charles. He was obviously the gunner for this team and suffered a torn ACL during week 14 last season. So he's obviously still dealing with some injury. What's the sense you're getting out of Charles? We heard Chris Banjo praise him earlier this offseason. Is he a guy, just given the fact that he tore his ACL towards the end of last year, is he someone they can keep on, the PUP list for the entire season and pretty much carry him without having to use a roster spot? What's the plan looking like for Irvin Charles on this team?
It's possible. At some point, though, if the guy's going to be able to pass a physical, it's kind of like, do you want to do that to him? So, I mean, it's actually, I was talking about this with some reporters over at the Giants. It's like, if you are a roster bubble, borderline NFL player like that, and you get caught up in this injury thing where you could be on the PUP list still collecting
Like
a
Malik
paycheck,
Taylor.
or go on the or go on the injury report, or I'm sorry, IR, and spend the season on the IR and collect a paycheck. Like, why not do it? But a lot of these guys just believe that they can make a team, believe that they can play, believe that they should be out there. So they take their injury settlements, and almost, to me, feels like you never hear from them again. That is an option. Again, though, if he's able to pass a physical, I don't know if the Jets would want to do that. Like, just stash him. Like, there's sometimes where you stash guys like that. I don't get the sense that that's something that they really want to do, is stash him on the roster. But, we'll see.
Staying with the topic of special teams, now there's only one punter remaining on this team's roster after the team did release Kai Kroger. That being Austin McNamara, who's a UDFA from Texas Tech last year, spent some time with the Bengals. Didn't see him in a preseason game, though. He was cut before the preseason. Do you think the punter on this team, Connor, this season is Austin McNamara? Is it someone they pick up from cut down day? What's the sense you're getting at the punter position right now, given it's just one guy who's never even punted in an NFL preseason game?
Yeah, punter's a little bit less stressful with that than kicker. And I do kind of think back to Matt Dodge when the Giants had him. I think it was Jeff Fiegels that they replaced, and then they went with Matt Dodge, and that was, I mean, he was horrific. It was line drive after line drive, and ultimately it cost the Giants a chance at the playoffs because he gave up that kick to Matt Dodge and the ridiculous comeback against the Eagles, and Deshaun Jackson ran it back for the infamous touchdown and ended that. And Matt Dodge was never never heard from again. There's some risk, obviously, with that, but I think you can see it early. You'll be able to see it in preseason. I will say that, after they let go of Zerline, when they let go of Morstead, it kind of felt like they were going with the youth movement. Now Nick Folk is back. You kind of wonder, it's like, oh, did they have a change of heart where they're like, no, you know what, maybe it is smarter to go with the veteran guy. Now, granted, again, you want that confidence in your guy when it comes to the kicker position. Like, when the game's on the line, you don't want him nervous. You want to have a guy you can trust, which is why sometimes you tend to lean towards the veteran. With punter, you got a little more leeway there. So there's been nothing that's happened so far in camp that I've seen where it'd be like, oh my God, major red flag with the punter. But again, it's going to be a big thing that you learn more come the preseason, like that opener against the Packers, like things like that. That's really where you're going to start to learn about where they're going to go in that direction.
You mentioned Nick Folk there. Overall, I'm a huge fan of that signing. I don't think you're going to find a better kicker entering this season than Nick Folk, someone who, despite entering his 40s, his production truly hasn't wavered.
Yeah.
He's led the league in field goal percentage over the past 2 years, has not got into any missed trouble. I mean, I like that they're holding a competition. I think competition at every position, as it says in your Twitter bio, iron sharpens iron, is always always an incredible thing there. So you obviously see Nick Folk now competing out that final kicker, to be the starting kicker on this team with Harrison Mevis, who spent last year in the UFL. Connor, is that a true position battle? Is that something you see going through the preseason, or do you think the Jets really like their odds with Folk here?
I will see, but generally you're not going to go out there and sign a 40-year-old kicker who has the history with this team like you do and all that stuff. And I don't. It would surprise me at this point if it wasn't Nick Folk. I would be surprised. I think that when you go out there and sign him, and I don't think Folk's coming off the couch basically to be like, yeah, let me go into a kicking competition for a couple weeks and lose my job. Like, I think that there's a pretty good understanding that Folk's going to be the guy, but we'll see. I mean, maybe there can be thicker kicker. Maybe you can come out there and steal something there and make some noise once the preseason starts and take that job from him. But once they signed Folk and they brought Folk in, it kind of tells me they weren't too happy with what they've seen from their kickers to this point.
Connor, a position that's been talked about a ton this offseason by Aaron Glenn and the whole Jets organization is obviously the quarterback position. You have Justin Fields, who solidified as this team's QB1. You obviously avoid what was a pretty significant injury scare, which ended up just being a dislocated toe. So New York Jet fans do get a break for once.
Yeah.
And then you have Tyrod Taylor solidified as this backup. Aaron Glenn is, couldn't say better things about Tyrod Taylor. But then you look past those two, you see Adrian Martinez and UDFA Brady Cook battling it out for that job. Do you get the sense that the Jets are going to try to roll with, 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks this season? How do you think New York handles the quarterback position behind Fields and Taylor?
Yeah, I think they'll probably, right now, if I had to guess, I would say that it's going to be Fields and Taylor as the 1 and 2 on the 53, and then they'll have another guy on the practice squad. And that could be Cook, could be Martinez. I think Cook probably has the edge over Martinez right now. In fact, the last Jets practice I was at before I started doing some of these Giants workouts, Cook was working ahead of Martinez. So when, Fields got hurt and Taylor moved up to 1, you had Cook stepping up above that. So you know what I mean? Like you had Cook starting to take some reps from Martinez. So I think ultimately what you're going to see is 1 Fields, 2 Taylor, and then those other 2 guys. I mean, if the Jets cut them, no team is going to add them to their 53-man roster. Like they're not going to cut a guy and put a quarterback that they haven't seen all summer on their 53. Like they would sign on another team's practice squad. So it shouldn't be hard for the Jets to get one of those 2 guys on their practice squad, and then you have your arm. And if anything were to happen to Fields and he has to go on the IR, you just call one of those guys up, and it's not that big of a deal.
That's what the Jets ultimately did with Adrian Martinez last year, because Martinez was in a similar position as he is now this time last summer. He just ended up getting cut. He stayed on the practice squad, and he was that emergency quarterback 3. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, though, Connor.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle 2. Who's going to be lining up alongside Quinnen Williams? That's been such a highly talked about position since this offseason started among New York Jet fans. We've seen all these guys now, get their feet wet during training camp. Who would you say right now is the favorite to land that job?
That's tough, man. Right now, I really think that competition is wide open. Like I don't think that there is a clear-cut winner. I know that Taylor is a guy that a lot of people were high on coming into camp. Yeah. I haven't noticed him much. I think he's kind of had a little bit of a slow start there for him. They really have a rotation going next to him. If there is a weakness on this team and a weakness on this defense, I do believe it's at that defensive tackle 2 spot. I think it's at that spot next to Quinn and their ability to stuff the run, stop the run, keep those big-bodied guys off of Sherwood, keep the big-bodied guys off of Quincy so they can run around and move past people and go get some guys. That would actually be a position that it would not surprise me to see the Jets monitoring on cut day and make a waiver claim or make something like that to try to get one of these guys, because no one really has stood out to me. They're rotating guys consistently, and we'll see if anyone ends up stepping up. But to this point, I really haven't seen that guy to be able to say, oh, this is the dude.
Yeah, you mentioned Leonard Taylor III there. He's been discussed highly as a breakout player for this team. I just think the problem is, Connor, when you talk about having him line up alongside Quinnen Williams, they're 2 similar of players overall. They're both 3 techs who are on or you're a little under 300 pounds, who I think when you talk about someone lining up next to Quinnen, you need someone who's going to space eat, who's going to be an efficient run stuffer for you, who's going to take double teams away from Quinnen Williams. And someone who comes to mind right away for me is Derek Nandi, someone who at his peak is a very, very efficient run stuffer and space eater in this league. He's over 315 pounds, but someone, just following along on Twitter throughout training camp who has caught my eye is UDFA Peyton Page out of Clemson. He doesn't give you much pass rush upside, but again, he's a guy who could take attention off Quinnen, who can run stuff for you. And I think that's ultimately what New York is going to be looking for here when it comes to plugging someone in on the interior of the line next to Quinnen Williams. I want to move kind of towards the back end of the defense, the safety position. Obviously, we've heard a lot from Andre Cisco these past few days throughout training camp. You kind of have the free safety, position solidified this year with Cisco going into the year, as Sim said, as your starter. Who's going to be the starting strong safety, though? That's something a lot of fans have talked about. Malachi Moore, the 4th-round pick this year, is a name that comes to mind. Do you think he's physical enough? Do you think he's big enough to play down in the box? Who do you see as this team's starting strong safety?
Right now, I mean, they started camp with Tony Adams as the guy. I think ultimately Moore is going to get it. Now, I haven't been there the last couple of days because I've been spending this week with the Giants, but everyone that I've talked to over there has continued to stress that this guy keeps flashing time and time and time again. And I remember when the Jets drafted him, I made some calls to people across the NFL, just defensive coaches that I know, and they raved about him. Like he was very, very high on a lot of defensive coaches' boards. Like, again, I don't think that anyone viewed him as a guy who was going to turn into an all-pro, Pro Bowl player, but they believed he was going to be a starting safety in the NFL eventually. Like, maybe it was going to be this year, maybe it was going to take a year. It all depended on how quickly he acclimated to the NFL game. But they all said pretty confidently that this guy is going to be a guy. Like, he's going to be a starter in the league for 5 to 10 years. Like, it's going to be he's going to be a starter in the NFL. I don't get the sense that the Jets were overly. I mean, Tony Adams didn't have a very good year last year. He ended up getting benched. The coaching staff really didn't love him that much. They liked him as the deep center fielder in Robert Saleh's defense. Like, that's how they viewed him. He's not an in-the-box guy. He is truly just a center fielder, speed, range guy who's going to make some mistakes, and he's an undrafted free agent. But that speed, some ability to ball hawk, like, that's there. Moore, I think, just brings a little bit more, no pun intended, and also the fact that it's the biggest aspect of it is he's this staff's guy. Like, this is a Aaron Glenn guy. This is a Darren Muji guy. And usually when you have somebody that this organization, I'm not talking about free agent signings, because usually that's just you got to plug some holes. When it's a guy that this organization has invested a draft pick in, they're usually going to get the nod over someone who maybe has struggled throughout their career and was taken by the last regime. So ultimately, when all is said and done, I think it will be more.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe right here on the show. Connor Long joined by the great Connor Hughes of SNY here, talking all things New York Jets right here on the show again. Appreciate you all tuning in. Questions, comments, thoughts, throw those in the chat. We got a couple minutes left here with Connor, so we'll go into the chat. Alan comes in, says, Connor, are you surprised that the, quote, core Jet players are driving over their old coach's dead body now? Well, they were relatively quiet last year. Not a good look.
Yeah, I am surprised. I think that some of it, like the comment Brees Hall made a few days ago, that was directed more towards the offensive staff. I know that there were issues with Nathaniel Hackett. Like that was undeniable. Like there were problems and issues with the offensive staff and Nathaniel Hackett. They didn't love his play calling. They didn't feel like they were utilized enough. They didn't like how buddy he was there. And Rodgers, like, he rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. So a lot of the comments, like you've heard from Garrett, a lot of the comments you've heard from Brees, I got the sense that they were much more directed towards that than it was towards Robert. Because everybody that I've talked to, even after Robert got fired, everybody on and off the record was voicing stamps of approval for Robert. They did not want Robert Saleh fired. They liked and respected Robert Saleh. I was a little surprised to hear, like, Will McDonald come out and criticize the coaching of Will McDonald. Was very surprised to hear Aaron Glenn criticize the coaching of Will McDonald last year.
That was with you as well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not talking about a guy who had like some like bullshit nothing season last year. The guy had 10.5 sacks, like as a situational rusher. So like, I think he was coached pretty well. Like, this was a ball of clay athletic freak when the Jets drafted him, who really didn't have any idea how to play real football. And the Jets coaching staff took him, the old Jets coaching staff, in 2 years took him into a double-digit sack guy who was a dynamic force around the outside. Like, that was a damn good coaching effort from Aaron White-Cotton, from Robert Saleh, from Jeff Ulbrich. Like, they did a really, really good job with this guy. So to criticize them for that took me back a little bit. But look, I will say this about coaches. Anytime there's a new one brought in, there's always this jolt. There's always this burst. There's always this like newfound energy that makes everyone feel pretty good. I think that's what the Jets are experiencing and voicing right now. I will say I'm a little surprised at how many shots they are throwing at the last staff, because I never got the sense last year that there were issues with the coaches.
Brooklyn boys, for Hughes, why is Gibson a roster lock? Connor, what do you got?
I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I don't think he's a raw. I'm just going through my head like guys. I'm like, well, he's a starting punt returner right now out there. I could easily see someone take Gibson's spot. Like, if somebody shows more value both as a receiver and returner, he'll be out. Like that's again, he's last regime, really, like you said, really hasn't shown that much of as a receiver. I wouldn't say he's a lock. I'm just going in my head thinking of names, and he's one that just kind of stood. I was like, oh yeah, Gibson's out there. He's a good enough slot receiver. Whenever Garrett has come out for whatever reason, he's been the one that's gone in at the slot. He is their starting punt returner right now. But if somebody else steps up in those roles, yes, Gibson can be cut. I don't think he's a lock.
Definitely.
He'd be on my 50. If I'm doing a 53 right now, he's on my 53. But like, I could easily see someone taking his job.
Is Malachi Corley on that 53 if you make one today?
Not right now, no. That guy is. There's just he doesn't do anything. Like I've never noticed him. He works basically with the third team. He doesn't do
Wasn't
anything as a
drafted
punt
by this
returner, kick
regime
returner.
either.
Yeah, a bad attitude. Like he's a guy that needs to have a kick-ass preseason. Like I'm not seeing it in training camp. So he needs to do something in a preseason game and the joint practices coming up with the Giants. He needs to do something to warrant getting more reps because it's clear he hasn't done anything to this point to do that.
Yeah, and I wasn't a big Malachi Corley fan last summer. I tried everything I can. I was
Yeah.
like, the Jets selected this
Rodgers
guy.
loved him. Aaron Rodgers loved him. He was banging the table for him as much as anyone else. And then the coaches loved him. Everything. It was wild.
And then he changed his number just as many times over this past year than receptions he had last season. So, I mean, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for Malachi Corley and Jet fans since they drafted him. Connor, do we have you for maybe 2 more questions here before we wrap?
Go ahead.
Awesome.
100%, man.
John says, how impressive is this kid, Connor? Long, great work. John, appreciate the support. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you joining us right here on the show. Thank you for the support, my friend. And then he says, could you see Braylon Allen take over as RB1 early on this season? Feed Allen, says John.
So that's so hard to say because like look at the Lions. Who's their RB1? Is it Montgomery or is it Gibbs?
Yep.
Like they use them both. So I don't think that Breece Hall is going to be the bell cow of the Jets. I don't think he's going to be getting 30 touches a game. I don't think that's the case. I think this snap share could very easily be 40-40-20 with Braylon Allen, Breece Hall, and then Isaiah Davis. Like maybe not 20%, maybe not 20 for 20% of the plays for Davis, maybe more like 10 for him. Like, you know what I mean? 45-45, 10, something like that. But I think it's going to be that even split. So I believe there will be games where Braylon Allen is the first running back out there. So is he the starter? But then you're like, how's that going to work? So I get the sense that Braylon is going to be really, really involved. In fact, I'm in a dynasty football league with my buddies. Like we're going on like 4 years running. I just traded for Braylon Allen. So he was somebody I traded, stashed on my bench. I'm like, I think this guy's going to be a pretty big factor this year. So Braylon Allen, I think, again, it's how you want to judge him. I think this is going to be one of those things where both those guys have a lot of value and both those guys do a lot of really good things this year.
I'm in a dynasty league, Connor, with Matt Miller of ESPN, and Matt has Braylon Allen on his roster. So I've been trying to scheme everything I can with Matt. I'm like, I need Braylon Allen, and I'm taking over a team this year that finished right in the middle of the pack. They don't have that much talent. It's a super flex league. I have the 6th overall pick in the rookie draft. It's like I need someone with upside. I'm not paying $100 a year for my team to go and win 3 games or 4 games just because I'm so barren of talent. So trying to land Braylon Allen on that roster as well. Not an easy task because everyone around the league has taken notice of his upside and how he's going to fit in on this Jets team. David says, Connor, what wide receiver positions is Pritchett being used in at Jets training camp? I see him more as like a special team. Yeah, special teams guy. We've seen him working with the punt return group, kick return group. I think that's where he gives you his most value. But I've seen him in the slot sometimes. I've seen him work as high as the second team. I don't think I've seen him get first team reps while I was there, but he's made an impact, Connor, throughout the practices that I attended. He nice route running ability, strong hands. Liked what I saw from Pritchett. Yeah,
and again, he's somebody out there like you'll see the guys flash, and now it's about consistently doing it once the pads have come on, because you'll see guys that flash when in OTAs, you'll see guys flash. Minicamp pads come on, they disappear. Preseason comes in, they don't do anything. Like it's all about doing it step by step by step by step by step. And he's done it to this point. It's now about taking it to Green Bay when they play the Packers in the preseason. It's about continuing it with the pads. It's about when you do get your opportunities to do it with the first team, making a name for yourselves and continuing to flash and be like, oh, who's that guy? Who's that guy? Like Brownlee, who's actually with the Chiefs now. Brownlee was one of those guys where like 2 or 3 times a day he'd go out there and just rip the ball away in a 50-50 situation. Like those, like you have to make a name for yourself and stand out in those situations. And if he continues to do that, he's got a chance to make the team. And then to maintain your spot, you have to start making an impact during the regular season. I love Brownlee. I loved his whole story. I've seen that year stashing 2 UDFA wide receivers on the roster between Gibson and Brownlee. But we ultimately never really saw anything out of Jason Brownlee. So I think with these UDFAs, it's obviously earning your spot now, but then also continuing to make an impact throughout the regular season to sustain your spot on the roster. Botsky says, biggest hole on the offense and defense you've seen while watching training camp? Offense. We'll go defense first. Interior defensive line, I think, is an issue. Safety, even with more Cisco, I could see that being an issue. I think that's a possible problem. Like I could see that being an issue. But interior defensive line, opposite Quinnen, still probably one I'm concerned with. Offensively, if anything happens to Garrett, the Jets are in really big trouble. because the receiver position's bare. Reynolds is like an okay option.
I think of him as like a middle to low end wide receiver 3 on a good team.
Yeah,
Low
yeah.
end 3, high end 4.
Exactly. We know what Lazard is. Johnson's like a solid veteran if you're going to throw him in there, but there's no Arian Smith. I think the Jets going to have a role for him this year, but you can't expect him to be a wide receiver 2 this season. Like the Jets really like him. Like they really, really like Arian Smith, but I think he's like you're going to see him be more of a role 2026, 2027 than 2025. So if something happens to Garrett, the Jets got some problems on their hands. So I think that wide receiver and below, and then just depth at a number of positions outside running back, like got concern. Yeah, like there's some depth issues there that the Jets have, but mostly it's just now again they're going to run the hell out of the ball. The Jets are so like they are really going to run the ball. But I think there's just the possibility of dealing with some big issues if something happens to Garrett.
Definitely. How many tight ends do you anticipate them carrying this year? Do you think
3.
they keep all 3 of Smart? Obviously, Taylor's a roster lock. Smart, they sign in free agency. You get the assumption that Jeremy Ruckert is back.
Yeah, Ruckert's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's back for the final year of his rookie deal. Do you think they keep those 3 tight ends? The tight ends position of need I've been talking about still all off season long is where, you've seen great things out of Mason Taylor throughout training camp, but you still haven't seen him suit up for an NFL game. Ruckert has done nothing for you. And then Stone Smart's a big wide receiver who we've seen succeed somewhat at minimal opportunities.
Yeah, I think they'll keep all 3. And a big reason for that too, Connor, is that you're looking at a team that's going to run the hell out of the ball. And when you run the hell out of the ball, you're going to use a lot of 2 tight end sets. A lot of jumbo packages. I mean, Ruckert has the ability to go into the backfield and play fullback as well for you. He's a really, really good blocker. I mean, I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think they'll keep 3, and they might even keep another one on the practice squad. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they start looking even for other guys when the roster cutdown happens. Like, that would not surprise me at all. So I think they'll keep 3, and you'll see them use a lot of them because they like I said, they are going to run the ball this year and use a lot of jumbo strong sets and try to just grind teams down.
Someone who's the first addition that Darren Mucci ever made as the general manager of this team, fullback Andrew Beck. And I watched a little bit of his film. He's an okay blocker. He can run some okay routes. Like, is he a tight end 1 or 2 for you? Absolutely not. Have you seen anything out of him in training camp that makes you think to some degree that he can make a push for this roster?
Not yet, but again, it's so hard because we don't have the luxury of watching instant replay training camp. We don't have the luxury of getting the all-22 film. So unless I'm watching him, unless he makes a big catch or makes a big run or makes like a bone-crushing block, like I'm not going to notice someone like that. Like you're noticing the guys who are consistently making the plays. So unfortunately, I think that I haven't. It doesn't mean, again, training camp will get the film, and training camp I can watch that stuff and then give you probably a little bit of a better analysis on him. But at this point, he just hasn't stood out.
One more question here before we wrap. Christopher Wilson, compared to last year, does training camp feel overall more organized and cohesive, or is this being overblown? Connor?
I wouldn't say it feels more cohesive and organized. I wouldn't say it's any different. Like, I mean, I think all training camp practices I've been at, this is Todd, Adam, Robert, and now this one, they all feel some variation of organized, some variation of they all feel the same like that. What I will say is that this one is far more intense. This one is far more aggressive. This one is far more turned up to 11. I mean, it is an intense, grueling, physical, punch you in the mouth training camp. Like, this is a culture changing summer that the Jets are going through. I mean, this is no summer camp. This is no resort and spa. Like, this is a old school football training camp that the Jets are in, and it's been fun to watch. Like, it's very clear that Aaron Glenn felt that this team needed to be kicked in the you-know-what, and he's doing that right now with this summer.
Connor Hughes, thank you so much for joining us right here on this Wednesday evening. Again, can't thank you enough for fitting us into your busy schedule and sparing us some time right here on the show. You got any final thoughts you want to share here before we wrap things up?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So I'm at the Giants the next 2 days, but then I'll spend all of next week with the Jets. So I'm excited to get back and provide you guys some Jets content across the multiple social platforms I'm on and SNY. So it'll be a blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's SNY's Connor Hughes. I'm your host, Connor Long. 2 Connors right here on the show. Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. Botsky, thank you so much for the $5. Appreciate the kind words. Thank you for sending us packing with a nice donation right here on the show. Appreciate your kind words. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you all joining us. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. He's SNY's Connor Hughes. I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone. And as always, JTS, baby. Jets, Jets, Jets. Peace out.